Impulse is revolutionizing the physical therapy experience for active individuals in Western New York. From marathon runners to warriors of the weight room, we've got you covered. Our cutting-edge technology takes sport-specific testing to the next level. Our patient-centered approach lets you drive your own recovery. You can expect individualized, one-on-one sessions every time you're here. And the game changer? Impulse is home to Western New York's only public board-certified sports PT. If you're ready to get back in the game, call Impulse today and mention Moneyball for $100 off your first visit.
Here we go. Moneyball. It's another episode. We're bringing them rapid fire here, man. We're just bringing episode after episode. I am stoked tonight to have Mr. Darren Fenn. And Darren was kind enough to join us from Arizona here this evening. 8 o'clock in a windstorm here in Buffalo. There's like power outages, fires all over the streets. It looks like the movie The Purge out here. But you're nice and comfortable in Arizona. Darren is the co-owner of the new Buffalo basketball team, the Buffalo Xtreme. If you guys have not heard about or seen this team yet, I'm not going to say you're living under a rock because I don't feel it's quite getting the recognition it should yet. However, I will say this, you got to go see it. Not only is it phenomenal basketball, the atmosphere is live. There's an MC doing his thing. There's half-court shots at halftime. Super family-oriented. Tons of kids. Just an amazing product. So first and foremost, Darren, thank you so much for coming out. Good evening.
Good evening. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, no, it's my pleasure.
Thanks for the kind words about the Xtreme. We appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely, and I mean every one of them. Sometimes you got to shut me up, when I start rambling, or even in the beginning like that. This guy's like, so who's interviewing you here, right? But listen, I did a little bit of research. I like to keep these very, very organic and not go crazy with research. And I like to kind of meet someone like, hey, I met Darren at a bar. In this case, we met at the Xtreme game. I'm trying to bug you and talk to you while there's like 3 seconds left, and one of the other fans was actually explaining the 4-point rule, I think, to you, because the game was getting fairly close, and the guy was like, "All right, man, make sure you D them up and press them, because if they shoot from half court, it's 4."
Yeah, there's some very interesting rules in the ABA, and there's times where it's hard to either remember or keep track of them all in the moment,
Yeah, you need somebody walking around with you just to tell you. Listen, I need to know, how did you get involved with this? How is there an ABA team in Buffalo right now? How did it happen? I mean, I know about your career professionally overseas and everything, and we can, absolutely, intertwine that a little bit. But I guess, how did this team get started in Buffalo?
It came about through our youth sports organization, which is Xgen Elite. That we've been going now for about 6 years or so. We've had our own facility in West Seneca for about 4 now, and we just thought it would be an awesome thing to bring to not just our community but the community at large. I feel like Buffalo is obviously a sports fanatic town.
Yeah.
I think professional basketball is missing in Buffalo. I think it has been for a long time. Some other people have tried it, and it didn't work out for one reason or another. Obviously the Braves left years ago, but we feel like we have a pretty good support system with our own community at Xgen, and then the community at large, I think, is just interested in watching live good basketball, and the level of play, I think, is discounted at times from people who don't know and haven't been. Of course, that there are teams that aren't as great, but we've had some really competitive games at home and away, and the one you saw fit that bill. It's a fun environment, and when those games get close, you start to get a little nervous, and
Sure.
It's a blast.
It truly was. And I think you hit the nail on the head with one thing that you said very specifically, and I'll key on that phrase. It was the word good. There's all sorts of basketball. We can go to anything from high school to collegiate games, right? UB's had great great years, great athletes, including Javon, who I had on, about a week ago, and we spoke and chopped it up about how much fun he's having. I talked to John as well, who said how much fun he's having. I know he was, I think, from Wisconsin, but these guys have been coming on. We've been cutting it up, and they're loving it. Like, they have nothing but kind words to say about you and the man that you are, and the hands-on approach. Obviously, you playing has so much to do with that, right? Like, if you were a guy who was a fan and said, I want to start a basketball league, it might be a little different, right? A little bit harder to relate to the players, I guess.
Sure.
But they all share the same sentiment as far as, Darren is just this real dude who knows the game, knows how to play, and kind of gives them the creativity and you obviously have a coach of the squad. You being the owner can oversee those things as well. But it just seems like they like the style of flow, and they like the creativity they have. And the game I was at in particular, and I plan on being at plenty more.
What's up, Moneyball family? I'm here to tell you about Smash Burgers from Buffalo Bros Burgers. Going to be opening a storefront in the village of Hamburg, and in the meantime, you can find them on the website wherever they're going to be in town. You're going to want to turn up and show out because they have some delicious burgers. Smash Burger is a couple of burgers smashed on a bun with some cheese dripping down. You hungry yet? Check out the Smash Burger from Buffalo Bros Burgers, man. It's good stuff.
3 little boys under 10. I know we were just talking about our 3-year-old. I have 3 kids under 10, one in travel hockey, one in base, you name it. But those, do you have just one kid?
No, I have 3. I have an 18-year-old daughter, a 14-year-old daughter, and a 3-year-old. So,
And
son.
just when you thought you were safe.
Exactly it.
Oh
Just
my
like
gosh,
I was
man.
saying.
We're about the same age. I think I'm 45. It's funny. Like, just when you thought you were out, right?
Yeah.
But it is obviously such a blessing. But going back to what I was saying, it is the key word was good. And it was such competitive basketball. Javon getting the ball inside and then just truly dominating. He's just such a specimen. He'll probably punch me in the face if I say a poor man's LeBron James. But he is a body type, right? I mean, he's physically, he fills the room up, man.
He's gifted. Yeah, I mean, he's physically gifted, but his touch and feel for the game, especially offensively, is also a gift. It's that skill set combined with his physique and his presence on the court is really hard to come by. And going back to what you asked earlier about how did it come about, we, having played the game overseas for as long as I did, and then having worked in youth basketball for the number of years I did, I thought it would be a really good bridge. And the game's been great to me. I mean, basketball has provided for my family and me, and
Sure.
it's had experiences all over the world.
Yep.
Certainly in the Western New York community. And
I saw Germany predominantly, right?
I was in Germany for 8 seasons,
Okay.
but all over Japan, Russia, France, Belgium. I was in a bunch of different places, and
It's so cool that you get to play the game you love and go see the world.
Oh, it was all. Even the bad places weren't terrible. I mean, at the time they were, but looking back at it, you're like, that was really a blessing. And
yeah.
So it was sort of 2-part for me. I really wanted to bring good basketball to Buffalo, but I also wanted to feature a lot of our local players who, for one reason or another, haven't had those opportunities, and potentially give them a platform. Maybe that's just playing in front of their family and playing in front of their community, but possibly that's pursuing a career overseas or at a higher level here domestically, and
Sure.
getting a chance to pursue their dreams. And we've already had a few players offered in different places. So it's starting to come to fruition. We really want to be, we're not greedy. We are, even if it hurts us as the extreme, we really want to be a place where players can, sort of launch their career.
Okay.
And get to the next level if that's something they're really interested in.
It's a very, very unselfish perspective, and anybody in any, phase, especially someone who's been a competitive athlete wants to win, right?
Well, we want to win too,
You want
100%.
to win, and for you to say what you just said, as far as, hey, if there's a different, maybe not better, different, whatever it is, opportunity, that you're willing to obviously let them entertain that. That says a lot about your character as well, in my opinion.
Well, it's important for them, and we want to attract the level of player and the level of athlete that wants to, continue to play at a high level, whether that's for us or whether that's, in a separate place. And speaking of someone like John, I mean, John, for those of you who aren't, are new to him, but he's a very young player, played Division III basketball. He's from Wisconsin. He's our one player that is sort of from outside of this area.
Yeah.
And he has an opportunity, possibly, we're trying to put it together to after our season here with the ABA, winds up, to go over and play in Australia, which is what a cool opportunity for a guy who, is coming from Division III basketball. So, that's the fun side of it.
That the interview I did with John, and you'll see it. It'll be done in the next week or two, and he says something on it, and I'm not going to spoil it. And I don't want to even do that for him, because he said something very, very personal that he shared, and he said it was the first time that he's ever shared it. But I'll give you kind of the synopsis. This team was enormous for him, right? I won't say exactly how. But he was battling a couple things, and you may or may not know this, but this team was enormous for him. And he shared that with me, and, we were talking and we were dicing it, and I just stopped for a minute, and I thought about, number one, how powerful that was. Number two, I couldn't wait for any kids or high school or even middle school kids, whatever, to hear that, right? And to receive that message. And then all the more reason to go and see these games, right? Like, if you see someone with that heart playing, and saying those type of things about where he is right now with the extreme, what else do you need, right? And I mean, when you hear
his growth, and I can't, obviously personally, he's a great kid, wonderful human being. But his growth in 2 or 3 months of playing basketball for us, his self-confidence, what he's brought out, and it's his credit. We have a great coaching staff. Coach Jacob he does a wonderful job. Coach Bob Bateson, who owns Body Blocks, he's got them in as many times as they want to get in. And he's transformed his body.
Yeah, you don't mess with Coach Bob.
No, you do not. I'm happy he's my friend. I'll tell you that much. So.
You don't mess with Coach Bob, man.
No.
I think when I was there, he was getting inducted into something, and he still had a look like on his face, like, hey, who wants to come and who wants to challenge me? You had to be a little bit, not to cut you short there, but you had to be a little bit nervous too going in, right? As far as when you made this commitment, how am I going to get the players, and will it be the talent pool that I really want?
Yeah, it's one of those moments where you start to have have belief in what you're trying to do. You have to have belief in what you're capable of doing. Your own product, and also belief in the people you have around you. Going back to Coach Jacob, he did an incredible job, recruiting, assembling talent, getting guys in the gym. Our manager at Xgen, Samantha Berry, she's phenomenal behind the scenes. I mean, it was a really weird thing for me because, playing as a professional basketball player, it was easy. You just show up. You show up to practice. Everything's done for you, right? They're washing your practice jerseys. You show up to practice. It's time to get on a bus. You get on a bus. It's time to get on a plane. You get on a plane.
Right.
You don't have to think about anything. It's all done for you.
Right.
All you have to do is play.
Spoiled rotten, man. Still spoiled rotten.
It's looking at it. It's 100%. But then, you get behind the scenes of something like that, and there's so many moving parts. From handling your VIPs and recruiting sponsors, and how are we going to put people in the gym, and ticket sales, and interns, and game day management, and how is the game going to flow, and things like that. So having that kind of support staff, my partner Glenn, Samantha, our manager, Coach Rich, Coach Bob, they're the ones who really did a phenomenal job of helping to put all this thing together.
That's incredible. That's incredible. And I think I read that you had, is it a sociology degree or a psychology degree?
I have a psychology minor. I was a bio major with a psych minor.
Okay. And, because it's funny hearing you say the player, having everything done for you, and you went right into, then that guy who has to do everything for those players. Talk about a role reversal, right?
Yeah, it's a huge role reversal, and
Right.
that's been a thing that I've sort of leaned on in coaching in general, right? Because the worst coaches I played for were the coaches who, in my opinion anyway, had a
Sure.
cookie cutter approach to everybody. I'm going to
Yep.
treat everybody the same.
Yep.
You can be fair, but also develop your style around the personalities, because if you can effectively communicate with the players, the coaches, the people that you're working with, if you can't find what it is that really gets them to understand the message, then you're doing them a huge disservice. And so every player has to be treated differently. Every player has their own story. Every employee has their own story, and it's our job to try to figure out what we can do to get them as motivated as possible and get the most out of them. And the Extreme's been doing really well so far. We're 8-2, and I think we're 13th in the country, and got a big weekend coming up. So
Yeah.
hopefully we can keep pushing those buttons.
And that's a business owner. Everything that you just said, as far as treating people differently, and compare that to someone who's running a Starbucks. Bad example with Starbucks. They're on my shit list, man. They're $23 an hour, union now, so they're on my list. But let's say a local pizzeria or anything of that nature, and on a little bit different level, you have professional athletes, and let's not get it twisted. These are professional athletes.
They are
100%. Like there's no gray area there. And then you have sometimes you get prima donnas. Sometimes you get people with issues. Maybe one of their kids is sick. It's the same thing, right? You're employing people. If somebody calls in sick, well, what do we do, right? Here, get in the game, right?
right.
So to be able to manage that, I think you've done a phenomenal job, quite honestly. And to be 8-2 as a first year team speaks tremendously with that. So what I had said to both those guys when I had them on is I said I guaranteed this. This wasn't like, hey, maybe. I guaranteed you guys are going to need a bigger arena next year.
Maybe. I think
there's
a
no
good
question.
chance.
The only way that would be different is if they opened up that whole back end and then, put up big bleachers there. It was pretty much sold out, and I don't know how many people that facilitates the way it is set up. But as people start hearing about this, and even me, I'm a baseball guy, tried and true baseball guy. My son plays. I'm a hockey guy. I'm an every sport guy, but never played basketball on that level, right? I'm 5'11" and just never, it was never really my sport. The other ones were.
Right.
But like we talked about, I love good competitive. Like, I'll be honest, man, if I had went and, that had kind of a comic feel to it, right? Where they were trying to involve just kind of joking or whatever, or even a Globetrotters type feel, because it's not supposed to be that.
Right.
Because I'm a pretty transparent, honest guy. I wouldn't be sitting here blowing smoke. I wouldn't. We'd still be friends, but I'd probably be telling you the truth. And it's just not the case. It was just so. The buddy I went with, and we took all our kids. He was just like, holy shit. He was like, man, these guys are grinding. And whoever was on Upstate 23 was just, I mean, shaking down you guys. I think Javon had 50, and this 23 on their team probably had 40. I mean, it was wild. It was just
some phenomenal basketball players in the ABA, and there are guys that could and should be playing overseas and making a good living. That could or should potentially be playing in the G League or even the NBA. There's a case made. But we're, as we learn this thing and as we grow, it's our job to schedule the games with the teams we feel like we can be the most competitive with, and bring that level into town. And I wanted all the things you said were the things that I wanted to avoid. We talked about this early on in this. I said the worst thing that could happen is for people to show up and feel like they're watching like a men's league. that's just the worst thing that could happen.
100%.
This
100%.
has to be the most fun you can have for $10,
Yep.
and watch a really good product. And I think credit to our players and our coaches, they've really put a good product on the floor. We're still working hard to continue to button up game day operations and make that as smooth as possible. Things always happen.
It's your first year. It's new,
But we have an environment in a facility where people are right on top of the court. They get to see these players right up close. I mean, and you can see the physicality and the passion. And
then for the kids, the kids come out after the game and they were signing autographs for everybody.
Yep. I tried to make it as close as I could to the teams that I played for and what I had to do playing overseas.
And is that kind of how they do it over there?
Yeah. So, that's why we have for our VIPs, at every game, our VIPs, which get front row, seats. Obviously they play a little more, and those are our sponsors.
Yeah.
We have a full buffet for them upstairs because we want our players going up and talking to them and mingling with them. We want to treat our sponsors and our VIPs the right way. If they spend that kind of money for a ticket, we want them to get, to come out of there thinking like they got treated really well. We want the fans to be up close and personal with our players. We want the kids taking pictures with them after the game. We don't want a bunch of guys to just run off the court to the locker room and zero interaction. We have hundreds of kids that are part of our Xgen family, that play for us, and this is a chance for them to see really good basketball and to have something to aspire to. So we're constantly preaching to our players. You have to be role models, and you have to interact with our our community. Whoever's at that game, you have to be willing. Whether we win or lose, you lose the game, you feel like crap. Yeah. You still got to go sign autographs. You got to shake hands.
Yeah. That's going to be part of the culture if you want to play for the Extreme.
You have to thank people for coming. You have to be grateful with all the things going on now these days and all the different pursuits you can have in entertainment. Sit on your couch and watch Netflix. You have to thank people for coming out and spending, even if it's $10, $20, $40, whatever, and supporting you and watching you play basketball. Like that has to be a thing. So we're very grateful to the fans that have come out so far and supported the team. I'm grateful to you for spreading the message, because we do think we have a really fun, family-oriented product that people should know about.
For sure. That's a phenomenal answer. I have one request. I think the food concessions we need to work on. Maybe a couple substitutions. I saw the Mott sticks, which was a solid. You don't see those too often.
What would you like?
I think just some pizza, right? Real easy, grab slices. You can order them in. I know enough guys with pizzerias. We could order them in and have them. Kids love the pizza. It's real easy, and honestly, it's easier on you guys.
Yep. Well, we have a pizza sponsor. Shout out to Pizza Pan Company in West Seneca, New York. Normally for most games we order those in and we have those available. You happen to catch us on a night where that didn't happen, but we'll do better. Don't worry, we'll have a pizza.
Lastly, man, and again, thank you so much for taking the time. What's your 3-year-old's name?
DJ. Darren.
DJ was well, that was my nickname when I was a kid. Donovan
Real
Joseph.
Creative. Yep.
Well, DJ didn't come on, so thank him too. Although it would have been really cute. But one last thing here, just real fun question. When you were over in Europe and playing, any big names that you had a chance to go head to head with?
Yeah, a lot of guys, players people might not know anymore. But one guy that was a fun player to play against, I played against a couple times, was Khalid El Amin. I don't know if you remember him. He won a national championship with UConn.
I do. Now that you say UConn, Yep. He's a smaller guy, right?
Yeah. He could play. He could really play. There was just so many players that played in the NBA for a long time, and then went over there for the end of their career, or had like a cup of coffee in the NBA. They were great college players and didn't make it, and came over. But just a list of guys that runs through my head is huge. But had an opportunity to play against Elton Brand, who was awesome. A phenomenal basketball player.
Oh, God, yeah.
I was back when we had the Empire State Games going on, and there's some really talented guys in New York State, playing in, like Wally Zerbiak and Meta World Peace, my guy
Oh
Larry.
yeah,
He
yeah.
was playing for St. John. So that was a lot of fun. I wish they would bring that back. That was a fun thing for our state. And
It was. It
but
was.
yeah,
I
there was a ton of very, very talented players that
Do you
could.
remember a guy named, I think it was Carlos Rogers?
Yes.
Yeah. I remember I went to one of those Empire State games, and he was a big deal back then. He was playing, I forgot, but yeah, I remember that name too.
Yep.
But yeah, man, again, I can't thank you enough. And I know we run, a little bit long here, so I appreciate it. It's tough when you start having these conversations and things start flowing, and it just kind of just starts coming natural. I think I'm going to have that problem for the rest of my career with this Moneyball, and only one or two that I've had to kind of cut short. So that's we won't talk about those. But thanks again, man. I'm going to continue to do my thing as far as supporting this ABA team, and I truly mean that, sincerely. And you and I will stay in touch. And good luck with everything, and keep it rocking, man. You're doing a great job.
Hey, I really appreciate the support and the support, and we'll be in touch. And thanks so much for having me on.
You got it, man. Thanks, Darren. Take care.
All right, thank you. Go Extreme.
Yes, sir.
Bye bye.